Welcome. This is class number 2. My name is Ann Forrest, and my email is there, seattleprepares@gmail.com. So feel free to send me questions. I'm happy to answer them. And I am delighted you're here, and happy St. Patrick's Day. This is going to be a fairly short class. It's a pretty cut and dried topic. So we're here to talk about water and what you need to know about water. So where do we get our water in Seattle? So 30% of our water comes from the Tolt River shed, and that's top right corner. And then 70%, so a bigger chunk, comes from the Cedar River watershed. So if you look at the map for a second, you could tell these spots are really far away. Seattle does not pull water out of Lake Washington or Lake Union or the Sound or anything and clean it up and put it through our pipes. It comes from fairly far away in lovely, pristine habitats. We have an amazing water system. We truly are lucky, but it has to travel quite a distance to get to us. And the pipes, both water and sewer pipes, are incredibly old. I looked for this statistic and I really wish I could find it, but I didn't want to quote it without some more meat to it. But I think within the last 5 years, we replaced the last wooden pipe. And I don't know if that was a sewer pipe or a water pipe, but it was a wooden pipe, and the last piece of wooden pipe in our whole system got replaced not very long ago. So these pipes are seriously old, like close to 100 years old, some of them. The city's ability to pull all these up and put down new seismically, structurally sound pipes is just not feasible. That is too much disruption and it is too expensive. So when pipe needs to be repaired, either sewer or water or gas, they put down good, resilient pipes, but that's little by little, and that's just patchwork. So we have a big mix of pipes that are really resistant to earthquakes and pipes that are not at all resistant to earthquakes. So that's why we talk about water so much. You need to remember this: when the earth shakes, pipes break. When the earth shakes, pipes break, and that is all of them. That is water, sewer, and gas. So everything running underground is going to be disrupted if we have a strong enough earthquake. So after an earthquake, this is what you do. You check on people and pets around you. You make sure that everybody's okay and that they're not hurt. And then you take care of your utilities, and we'll address the other utilities in a different class. But for right now, we're going to talk about water. And you're going to turn off water to the building you're in. Because even if you know you're not supposed to bring water into the building, somebody will do it, whether it's your little kid or your partner or your colleague or whatever. Somebody's going to turn on a tap in that building you're in, whether it's an office building, a store, your home, whatever. Somebody's going to turn on the tap and they're going to bring in not only the water that's in the pipe, but all the junk that's around the pipe that is now, coming in with your water because the pipe broke. So turn off water to the building you are in. We're going to talk about 2 spots, and this is just a typical home. 2 spots where you can turn off the water. And ideally, you would turn it off inside the house, better than outside. But inside the house is really good. The other spot to turn it off is in the street, and I'll show you pictures of both. So this is what it looks like in the house, some kind of knob like this. The bottom left-hand one is what I want you to think about doing. And that's a tag that I made. You could have a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be fancy, but label it that it's water and that it's the major water turn-off valve for your house. And remind yourself that you're supposed to turn this off after an earthquake. And then one of the things on your to-do list is to find this valve, label it as such, and then teach everybody in your household to turn off that water because you may not be home. And it's super easy. If you turn off the water and you're just farting around, you can turn it back on again. So have your kids or whoever is in your household, have them play with it. Actually physically turn the water off and then turn it back on. Nothing bad happens. But that is one of your tasks for this week, is to find that valve, mark it, and practice turning it off and on. And then if you're out in the street, it could look something like this. Some of them are round. This one happens to be rectangle. This tool is very nice only because you can stay standing and turn off the valve, but it's not essential. but a lot of times down in that hole, and you can see it's a couple inches down, it will be, there'll be lots of mud and leaves and that kind of stuff. So sometimes a tool is very nice just to get down there and turn it off. But I'll show you what it looks like down there. The picture in the right hand corner, the valve that we're looking at is the one to the right of the water meter. So when that is in line with the pipe, the water is on. When you turn it a quarter of a turn either direction, but you're running across the pipe, that means the water is off. So just like you can practice inside the house, you can go outside, find your water meter that's close to the street, and you can turn it off there as well. And that'll give you a good idea of how much junk is there, put on a pair of garden gloves, clean out all that gunk, and figure out how difficult it is to turn your water off and on. And maybe you need a tool. Maybe it would be easier. So that's how you turn off the water. And now let's talk about the priorities of the city of Seattle, Seattle Public Utilities, and how they're going to handle getting water to us, water for drinking. So their priorities are absolutely fighting fires. They do not care if you are thirsty. Their job is to fight fires first. Their second goal will be to get water to essential facilities, hospitals, emergency response centers, police departments, fire departments, any place that is responding, they're going to try and get those guys water first, especially hospitals, obviously. And then they're going to work with other city facilities and essential businesses. And then and only then are they going to worry about drinking water for people on the ground. And they're going to work with populated areas first, which means high-rise buildings, so the super densely populated areas. And then they're going to worry about single-family homes. If you're living in a single-family home, you are on your own for a very long time. These are the priorities of Seattle Public Utilities. So they are not going to kill themselves to get you drinking water. We are supposed to have drinking water in our homes as much as we possibly can. So this is the message they're trying to get out. This is the message I'm trying to get out. There are a few of these in the city. And when I say a few, I mean 6. So they're called water buffaloes or water bladders or something like that. But, they're amazing for driving into a neighborhood and distributing water that way. The problem is there's very few of them. The other problem is they're very difficult to get around when the roads are torn up. And it takes quite a few people to get them filled, monitor them, crowd control around them, keep the area clean, make sure that nothing is contaminating it. This is not going to roll out quickly at all. Do not depend on the city of Seattle to provide you with drinking water after an emergency. You're going to be scrambling. And my goal is to make you not be part of that scramble. I really want you to store water in your house as much as you can and not be mixed up in trying every single day to get water. You all know this, but you can go 3 days without drinking water and you can go practically 3 weeks without eating. Water is going to be a priority, and it's going to be a priority from day one for most of us. So try not to be in that population. How much water do you need? This is the guidance from the city of Seattle. It's a gallon per person per day for 2 weeks, and more if you can. Man, if you can put away more, please do. A gallon per person per day for 2 weeks. Depending on how many folks you have in your household, here's the math for you. And don't forget your pets. You need about 1/3 of a gallon a day for your pets, more if it's a large pet, less if it's a small pet, more if you have several pets. So do the math, write it down on your handout for this week's class, and work towards getting at least that much water if you possibly can. And I know how difficult it is. I know the kind of space that water takes up, but you will never regret putting away water. How am I supposed to store that much water? Tuck it away wherever you can. Hopefully inside, not outside because of the weather. If you have a crawl space, if you have luggage that's tucked away somewhere, throw some in there. Make sure your freezer is packed. If you've got empty freezer space, make sure that you are putting bottled water in there and letting that freeze and take up space. Work with your neighbors. If somebody knocked on my door and said, "Could you store water for me?" and I had the space, I would so do that. Work really hard to make it happen. Can I drink water from streams, rivers, ponds, lakes, or mysterious springs? No, you cannot. That is the guidance from the city of Seattle, and I totally get it. A lot of people think that they're going to walk down to Lake Washington or Lake Union and haul water out of the lakes and take it home and purify it. That is next to impossible. You practically have to be a chemist. Going to be a lot of industrial waste and just sewer lines leaking into the water. You're not going to be able to make it clean enough to make it safe to drink. If that's your plan, please scrap that plan and start working on another one. It happens all over the place where water just kind of pops up out of nowhere. Middle of the street, you'll just get a water bubbling up and people go, "Oh, yay, that's, water. I can now purify that." You have no idea where it came from. You just don't know the source. You cannot grab that and make it clean enough. Do not make that your plan. What about swimming pools or spas, hot tubs? If they haven't been contaminated with flood or stormwater, you could use them for personal hygiene. So if you wanted to, rinse off kind of, or cleaning. But again, you cannot make those clean enough to drink, not unless you've done a lot of research and you're a part chemist. Other sources of water. If you're fortunate enough to have a hot water tank, that is really a great source of water. And I'm going to direct your attention to the two blue arrows here. We're going to talk for just a moment about this strapping, and then I want to show you that the drain spout is at the bottom of this. This strapping, make sure that the strapping that they use to secure it is good strapping. This is a pipe, I forget what it's called, but basically it holds pipes up. It has all these holes in it. It is not strong enough to secure your hot water tank. And your hot water tank needs to be secured to the studs of your home, not just drywall. That will not keep it up. And hot water tanks have 40 to 60 gallons of water in them. That's a lot of water. You really want to make sure that that is secured to your house and that it's not going to tip over or break the spout during an earthquake. I've given you a couple sites on, I believe, the handout on making sure that your hot water tank is secured correctly. And if a reputable person put it in, more than likely it is well secured because this is not new technology. You can use the water in the back of the tank, not the bowl of your toilet, but the tank of your toilet, as long as you haven't used some kind of deodorizing, coloring, scenting, any kind of chemicals back there. So if you have, I would stop using that. Stay away from the chemicals just because there is a gallon or two of water back there that you could use. If you're buying bottled water, which if you can afford it, that's exactly what I suggest you do. Buy as much bottled water as you can, because as soon as you buy it and you tuck it away, your worries, I shouldn't say that, your worries are over, but you don't have to think about it again. We bought our water when we got here 5 or 6 years ago, and I have not touched it, and I will not touch it. I don't care if it tastes crappy. I don't care if there's a teeny bit of plastic that leaches into the water. I don't even think that happens. It's downstairs in our basement. I bought it, and it's just sitting there. Water used to have an expiration date on it. That was back in the 70s. They realized that was a goofy thing to do. So as long as it was bottled according to the manufacturer's directions, should not be an expiration date on there. Buy your water, tuck it away. Of these two containers, one's the clear plastic and one's kind of the milky plastic. I think the clear plastic is a little bit stronger. If you had a choice and price wasn't too different between the two, I would go for the clear, really, really strong plastic. This is a 6-pack of gallon jugs, and this is under $6. So this is really a good price if you have the chance to go to a store like that. This bundle, 6 gallons of water is pretty heavy. Find somebody young and strong that'll haul that into your house for you. But this is a really good way to bring water into the house. The fact that it's all together is kind of nice, so you don't have six bottles bouncing around in your basement or your hall closet or whatever. But I just wanted to point out that that's a really good price. Clorox. I have given you several handouts that talk about using, not Clorox, I'm sorry, bleach. They talk about using bleach to make sure that the water you're drinking is clean enough to drink. So what I want to encourage you to do is, if you buy bleach for laundry purposes, that's great, perfect. Make sure that you buy bleach in small enough quantities that you go through it fairly regularly, like You want to be buying a new bottle of bleach about every 6 months because the potency, the effectiveness decreases. Think about buying bleach in smaller quantities maybe than you have. It just depends on how fast you go through it. The other thing, whenever you buy bleach, make sure you do not buy the scented bleach. That's really a problem. That does not disinfect. And also make sure that your bleach says it's for disinfection. Scented and the splashless bleaches are not meant to disinfect. So make sure you look for that label on your bleach when you buy it and buy in small enough quantities that you go through it regularly enough. This is a washing machine hose. You could use just a garden hose. It doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be fancy, but something to hook to the bottom of your hot water tank would be really helpful to get the water out. So you're going to hook this up before you ever open the water tank, just because that valve is usually so close to the floor that it's kind of hard to get any kind of a bowl or bucket or anything underneath there. So consider a small hose. That's all. This is what I'm currently looking at for my home. I know it's ridiculously large. This holds like 50 gallons of water, but I am seriously considering this because we have this space and I'm that concerned about water storage. So if you have any questions about this, I'd be happy to tell you the little bit I know about it. Not suitable for earthquake preparedness. A lot of folks have these devices, life straws. There's a bunch of different companies that make them. These are great if you are out in the wilderness, you're backpacking or whatever, and you have a free flowing stream and it's coming from a great source or whatever. It's a lovely device to have. And I can tell you, I made the mistake of buying a bunch of these and giving these to friends and family. I do not do that anymore. There is not, in an urban setting, in a city, there is not enough filtering, and there's no charcoal or anything like that in these devices. They cannot take out the chemicals that are going to be a problem for us that live in the city. I've seen folks kind of lean towards this device too, which is, it's just a plastic liner for your tub, and as you fill this plastic bag with water, it molds itself to the sides of your tub. So obviously you can hold tons of water in it. This is a great idea for a hurricane, but that's because you had 3 days notice that a typhoon or a hurricane was coming through. You don't get that kind of preparation for earthquakes. So this is not something you want to use because, again, you might be pulling in clean water, but it's just as likely that you're pulling in very contaminated water. I'm going to go through power outage lights. This is one slide, super, super quick. And then I will get to questions about water because I know water is really big. Power outage lights, I'm just making folks aware of these. You want to put these where if the lights went out, if the power went out and you had no lights, it would be difficult to find your way out. Basements are a good idea. If it's, 9 or 10 o'clock at night and it's dark outside and I lose power, I am in a pitch black void down in my basement and I'm probably going to kill myself trying to get to the stairs to get up to get where there might be some light. So these plug into outlets. They turn on automatically because they sense that the power has gone out. They're constantly charged, but when they sense that the power is no longer flowing through your system, your house, a light kicks on. So it gives you a light to walk to, and then a lot of them, you can pull them out of the socket, and then they are your flashlight. This is one type of power outage light, and that's exactly what they're called, power outage lights. Here's another one. This is a light bulb that again senses whether or not you have electricity. And if you don't, this light bulb will turn itself on. Maybe in the living room, every house is different, but maybe there would be a really smart place for you to have this kind of light bulb, this kind of technology in your home. And then here's one more. This is hardwired into your electrical system. And again, once it senses the electricity has gone off, the light turns on. So just a couple options. These are available at Ace Hardware. They're probably at Lowe's and Home Depot. You can order them online. You're just going to type in power outage light and get whatever works for you. Walk through your house, think about it, count up how many you need and buy them and then plug them in and never have to worry about it again. If you have any interest in printing this, maybe laminating it, putting it up in, your local park or your, I don't know, grocery stores, whatever. I'm just trying to get folks to be thinking about this. So print this or forward it on to neighbors. If you want a gentle nudge to keep you moving on your preparedness journey, please sign up for the newsletter. That'll be coming out soon. Next week's class is managing utilities after a disaster. So we're going to talk about electricity and gas and sanitation, which, whoa, is important. I cannot stress enough. Nobody wants to talk about toilets, but man, that is an immediate concern. And that is a problem that, like water, will not get fixed rapidly. We are going to be doing something different for toileting than we expected, and that will last for a long time. So you really want to tune in next week. That's all I have. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to go to questions. Somebody asked about a water safety test. I don't honestly know of such a device. I'm sure they're out there. I am not a chemist. I don't play one on TV. I don't know. Does the size of the water storage container matter? No. I'm not sure exactly what that question's about. Can you review why turning off water is important? Yes. So water pipes in the ground are going to break during an earthquake. So if you turn on the water and you pull that water into your house, it's not only pulling in water, but it's going to pull in everything else around that pipe: dirt, chemicals, possibly sewage. So yeah, you need to keep the water in your pipes clean. Eventually, the water pipes will get repaired, and they'll be able to flush through your house, and you'll be in good shape. Water purification tablets. There, you can use like iodine and that kind of stuff. I don't know too much about it. Iodine turned me off right away. I was looking for something more stable. I think that's what the question is about. More stable than bleach, which does deteriorate. I have bleach in my house all the time just because I use it for laundry. So I always know that I have bleach around, but I did look into water purification tablets a little bit. Iodine completely, I wasn't impressed at all. I don't want the smell. I don't want the weird color. So I moved away from iodine. There are tablets you can buy. It's a whole lot more expensive than bleach. I'll have to find some information and send that out. I did not include it, and I don't have great notes on that. So I will send out water purification tablets with the link for the video of what we're talking about tonight. Okay. Life straw for a water barrel. That's a really good question. I don't think it's a bad idea, but I am not a chemist. I would not swear that it's a great idea. I don't know what would run off of your roof and get into your water barrel that wouldn't be pulled out by a life straw or something like that. If you want to do some research, have at it. You're going to have to be thinking about a filter that has charcoal in it in order to even begin to get some of the chemicals out that are in our, would be in, maybe not rainwater, but certainly any kind of runoff water. Can you talk more about drinking from the water heater? Step number 5. Can you put something more in the chat about that? What about turning off the hot water tank? So when I sent out the reminder about this class, I also sent out 2 documents that I think printing would be very smart for you to do if you have the ability to print. One of them is how to get water out of your hot water tank. So I'm not going to go through that now because you'll never remember it. Print off those directions, tape it to your hot water tank, and forget all about it. Somebody asked about breaking the vacuum. So the hot water tank, you can't get water out of it unless you introduced either more water into it or introduce air into it. Since we're not going to introduce water into it, you're going to have to introduce air into that. And you do that by turning on a faucet somewhere else in your house, hopefully higher. Ideally your water tank is in your basement, and you can turn on your kitchen faucet on the first floor or something like that. You'll be able to figure it out. Print out the directions, tape it up on your hot water tank, and worry about it if it ever happens. Yeah, the hot water on demand. I know. I don't know much about how to get water out of that system, and you're right. It's not going to be much. It's going to be, maybe a couple gallons. I could do some research. Um, Water on demand. And maybe I'll have something by next week on what I found out about that. I really have never looked into the water on demand tanks and how you would get water out of there or even how much is left. Uh, let's see, what about turning off the hot water tank when turning off water? Yes, that's actually a good piece of advice. If the earthquake is bad enough that you are turning off your water and you're hunkering down because you're going to shelter in place while we figure out the recovery process, then I would also turn off power to your hot water tank and get it to start cooling down, because that takes hours. So if you think it's bad enough, turn off power to your hot water tank and get that cooling down so that you have that to drink. Do you suggest gallon size water or bottle for a family of 4? I think it really depends. The size of the container that you're going to use, that you want to buy, really depends on your household. I know a lot of folks buy these big 5-gallon and 7-gallon containers. So I guess they're not more compact. I'm not sure really what the value is. They're a lot more expensive than just the gallon bottles of water. I know that for a fact. The other thing besides the price, the other problem with them I see is that, are they in a spot where you can get to? I would not want to carry 7 gallons of water up my stairs from my basement to my first floor. So that's why I've kind of stuck with 1-gallon bottles for up to this point for my family, because I know I can traipse them up and down the stairs without any worry. So I think the only downside of a large container is that if you had to move it, that would be very difficult. Is it possible to can water? I don't know. I don't know what the value of that would be. Oh, I wanted to mention, so I sent you 2 documents that I think it would be smart to print. One of them is the hot water tank. Again, you're going to print it and put it on your hot water heater. The second one is how to fill and maintain bottles of water if you want to do this yourself, which a lot of people do. A lot of people every 6 months will switch out their water bottles. They'll pour the water on plants or pour it out in the garden or whatever, and then they'll refill water bottles. That's very doable. And I sent guidance on how to do that from, I think it's the Environmental Protection Agency. When is an earthquake bad enough that we should be going through these protocols? That's really a good question. I think we're going to know. If the earthquake, if communications are up, the city will probably send out an alert on Alert Seattle. So hopefully you've signed up for that. Alert Seattle, they will use it to say things like boil water for the next 24 hours until we figure out what's going on, until we figure out if the water is safe enough to drink. So if it's a mild earthquake, I think you will hear from the city fairly rapidly, because communications might still be up, and they will tell you to do something like boil water. If it's a really bad earthquake, you're going to know it, and the city is not going to be able to even get messages out on Alert Seattle, because you need cell phone towers to make that happen. So a lot of this is going to be running to your neighbors and going, hey, what do you think? And hopefully amongst, the group of you, you can figure out what to do. That's all I have. And I think I've gotten to most of the questions. If anybody has a question and you want to speak up, please do. And just raise your hand using that. There we go. Julie Weisbeck.
I am actually a fan of iodine for purifying water. I have been getting, every time we go to Mexico or South America, Central America, I get sick every time. And last time I took the iodine tablets and the tablets to take away the taste and followed the directions. It was a little bit of work every day to fix my water bottles, but I did it. I thought the water tasted fine, and I did not get sick.
Okay. And Julie, that's a great point for a place like Mexico, where what you're fighting against in a place like Mexico is bacteria.
That's right.
It's the stomach upset.
Yeah.
That's not, the iodine's not going to help if the water source is contaminated with chemicals like
Right.
pesticides or fuels or something like
You're
that.
right. You're right.
So, there's pros and cons, but in our situation, in the urban city environment, we really have to be careful of chemicals and working really hard to get those out of our water system, and that's going to be next to impossible. So, bottled water. Thanks, Julie. That was a good point. Yeah, Manny, go ahead. I'm probably screwing
What
up
was
your
that
name.
tank that you said that you were thinking of buying that you had the room for?
Oh, I'm at the beginning of researching it. I don't, somebody's got to know what those things are called. I mean, they're meant for water or food grade kinds of substances. You'd have to make sure that you get a food grade capable one. Roger, you know what they're called?
I just wanted to, we purchased a 55-gallon drum. It's a blue drum. It's stored in our garage, and it's intended for long-term water storage. You end up using a bottle of water purifier when you fill up the tank, and then you fill it right to the top and you seal it. And when you have to ultimately use it, there is a pumping mechanism that you attach to the barrel, and you can get water out of it. We're just at a point where this fall, our 5 years of storage of 55 gallons will be up, and so I'm going to be testing to see how potable, how what kind of taste the water is. And then there are YouTube videos that tell you about using these 55-gallon water storage tanks and how to clean them in between emptying them after 5 years and refilling them for another period of time. So for us, that seems to be working. At least I hope it is.
So where did you
Nice. Thank
find
you,
it?
Roger.
Where did you get it?
Yeah, Amazon.com, water storage tanks. It'll tell you all about it.
Yeah. You want to make sure that they're food grade.
Food grade, yeah.
Yeah. Somebody asked, will bleach remove chemicals from contaminated water? No. Bleach is for definitely bacteria. I honestly am not sure about viruses. Probably like, I don't know, there's other things in the water. Bleach makes water drinkable, but only if it's from a fairly good source. So no, it does not get rid of chemicals. It doesn't do anything for pesticides, fuel, any of that kind of stuff. Somebody said they have the rain barrels, or not rain barrels, the water storage barrels at Coastal Farm and Ranch. You could look on, Craigslist. Just make sure you get it from somebody that never used anything in it other than food. That it's food grade and that you clean it out really, really well. Anybody? I can't see everybody, so feel free to unmute and ask a question if you have one.
I have a question, and that is, if water is in a non-food grade 5-gallon container, how often should you change it?
I wouldn't even guess on that one. I would not store water that was not in a food grade container. Okay. I don't know what kind of problems you'd be running into there. All right.
I have a question.
Got out a little bit later. Yeah, go ahead, Nancy.
Would you repeat, you were saying that not to worry about pre-bottled water that like you got from the store? Just don't worry about it like forever?
Yeah, there is, to my knowledge, there is no expiration date on bottled water. If it was put into the bottle the way the manufacturer said it was, and you have to assume it was, there is no expiration date. So it's good until, I don't know, somebody stabs it with a pencil and it leaks everywhere. Check the bottle, but that's my understanding. Back in the 70s, somebody got this crazy idea that they had to put expiration dates on bottled water, And so it caught on and everybody was doing it for a while, but it's pretty much gone away because it's not necessary. So yeah, just buy, my hope is that people just buy the water, tuck it away, and never think about it again. Any other questions? All right, let's go enjoy the rest of our St. Patrick's Day. Thank you, everybody. Please tune in next week. You'll learn about how to make an emergency toilet, which I know sounds gross, but you're going to need it.